Atomic batteries to power.
Now, Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show.
It may well possess a rudimentary intelligence.
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
Tell the great disturbance in the force.
Hello, I'm Mr. Red.
Come on, bark like a dog for me.
Where's the goodies? Leave the gun. Take the cannoli.
I bet you wouldn't have done anything like this if Mom and Dad were here.
You filthy criminal.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Here are your hosts, Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Hi, this is Alan Alda, and you're listening to Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Welcome back to Everything Old is New Again. That's Alan Alda, believe it or not, introducing us as I'm trying to show off here to my son, Leo Viviani, who is here. David Cohen, sportsman extraordinaire. David, how are you?
Yes, very well. Excited to be back.
And we have a continuation from last week. Roy Silver, a friend of ours that goes way back to junior high school, who then went on to become a standout in Eckerd College as a Hall of Famer. Now he was inducted to their Hall of Fame as a baseball player, went on to play in the minor leagues and reach up to the AAA level, started his own academy for baseball for 16 years, and then is back in baseball now as a special, I guess, am I saying it right? I don't know, special instructor for the Texas Rangers. Roy Silver, explain to us a little bit what you do now on a regular basis. Welcome to Everything Old is New Again.
Well, some people question what it is that I do because they don't see me actually doing a lot of physical coaching anymore. I don't hit as many fungos. I don't throw as much batting practice. I do flip and do stuff like that to help out. But so some guys make fun of me because, like, what do you do? And I do a lot of stuff, a lot of coaching behind the scenes. I like to go off to side rooms. I like to go for walks. I like to go for coffee with the guys, get them away from, the stadium or the ballpark every day, just get them away and get to know them. But the title has just been reduced to Rover. I was a special assistant, and Rover just lets me kind of rove, and I kind of fill in places where I'm needed. I watch the game, but I'm not honed in on it all the time because sometimes a conversation at the end of the dugout, and I'm always in uniform, so I'm either in the dugout or I'm out in the bullpen. And again, just organically getting to know players. And we have so many young coaches that now I'm old enough now to start coaching coaches as well, how to address these young men. And there's no algorithm for that. When you're talking about relationships, it's, when I talk to Doug, it's different than talking to Dave. Maybe the same, but slightly different, and what your background and where you come from is going to dictate where the conversation goes. So you have to get to know each other, and it has to be a two-way street. Coaching used to be, it's my way or the highway, especially when we were growing up. Those days were over, and especially in pro ball, you have to respect that this man is a grown man, even though he's maybe 16, 17, 18 years old. He's still a grown man, and it's his career. I have to walk alongside them. This generation has grown up with a dad on a bucket, calling pitches. They don't even call their own pitches. So we want them to, if a pitcher can call his own game, he's going to have the confidence to throw that pitch in that situation. And if I'm calling pitches for them, the conviction can go away. Now they're throwing what I want them to throw. And that's just an example of what I have to do to get these guys to be big league ready. And if they don't make it to the big leagues, like I said earlier, I want them to be good men. I want them to be faithful as husbands. I want them to, be good dads, good fathers, and so on and so forth. So it takes a lot of time. It's taxing, but I love it. And I want depth. I don't just want to say hello, how are you doing, goodbye. I want some depth, and I have to get these young coaches, because these young coaches are very smart. They have a lot of analytics. They got a lot of really good information, but learning how to use that information, simplifying it. You can't show all your cards in one spot. I tell them, play one card at a time. Talk in short snippets. Don't give them all this information and just add more anxiety to their world. So that's what I try to do. I try to balance all that out. And again, no algorithm.
And so Texas Rangers have a really good team this season. And I think they made some moves at the trade deadline. Are you involved in any of the new players that come on the team, or are you more?
We were buyers, right? So
yeah,
we bought at the big league level, and it's at a price. So guys like Scherzer, it's going to cost you some pretty good players, and we've lost a couple of our favorite players that we've spent a lot of time with. Ronnie Acuna's little brother, Luis Angel, went to the Mets, and he was just a product of not only good genes from the Acuna family, but the skill work that he put into becoming the infielder that he is, shortstop type ready, base runner that he's become, the young man that he's become. And we lose that, it's a little disheartening. But, you got Max Scherzer, who's now 2-0 in the big leagues. And our owners, went out and got a second baseman and shortstop 2 years ago that are pretty good players, but the owners committed to winning. Ray Davis and Neil, maybe the two men that have treated us all real well. They commit to that. And then at the minor leagues, it's our job to have some depth so we can get those players, and we lost probably one of our most, just a great kid, Tommy Sajaci, also to the Cardinals, and they were both already in AA, and they're knocking on the big league door for those teams. So we wish them well, just not against us. Yeah, there's
exactly.
That's how the business of baseball is.
And you've seen and worked with them in one form or another, I presume, and a lot of these players as the rover for the Texas Rangers now.
Again, my role with those two players in particular is always behind the scenes, listening to them talk about their lives back home. Luis Angel is from Venezuela, from a really small, simple town on the water. And, how they grow up is going to be how I talk to him. And then Tommy Sajaci, who grew up in California. I think his dad is from New York. His mom, he grew up with a mom that had developed breast cancer when he was really young. And he moved to New York with her, played Little League in Harlem. He's an interesting story for 2 or 3 years while she had some new cancer treatments. And then he moved back to San Diego. She was in remission. He ended up losing her his senior in high school. So I put myself in his shoes. And we were high school seniors together. Oh my gosh, if my mother would have died that year, how would that affected my life moving forward? I was an idiot for a few years, even though I had mom, and my life turned out okay. But I had men in my life that grabbed me by the shirt and go, "What are you doing? You're wasting your talent. You're wasting." So those stories like Tommy Sajaci and Luis Angel put a lot of time into them on the field, a lot of time off the field. But you know what? As I said earlier, I hope that they turn out to be great major leaguers, but hopefully even better men, and that's kind of what I do.
And I'm sure they're going to and have benefited from your advice for sure. Leo, I think you've got a question dovetailing off of that.
Yeah, what do the MLB players do when they're not playing baseball?
Oh, that's a good question. Anything and everything. There's a lot of downtime, but now more than ever, our guys we keep them really busy. We feed them when we're on the road. Like right now, we're on the road. I'm in a hotel room, so more than half the team, and I usually go with them. I didn't go this morning. They went to the weight room, so they lift at 9:30. Half of them go 9:30 to 10:15, and then there's another group 10:15 to 11 o'clock, and then they're lifting. They come back and hang out at the hotel. Some of them take naps. Some of them will play video games. Some of them will talk to their girlfriends, their wives. Some of them have a nightlife. I think that's kind of calmed down from back in the day. But, they unwind. They get out. And we don't discourage that. We have rules in place, and we have curfews. They're men, and they have things that we all do when we're young. And again, if they follow the rules and they're professional about their business off the field. But we have pretty much really good group of young men. But again, this, unfortunately, like every other kid on earth, it consumes them. And this can be really good, and it can be really bad. And especially if you
right.
become the cell phone. Sorry, we're on radio. The public the public, when you're in the public eye and you start doing all the Instagrams, and I'm not involved in social media, but it can get them in trouble one of two ways. One, it can directly get them in trouble by posting things that are just silly or stupid, but also they start listening to things about themselves, especially the higher they climb the ladder, and they start buying into what fans are writing about them. And if you don't have that, thick skin that you have to develop, which is part again of what we do, is we're developing that skin. As you guys well know, playing in New York is a tough place to play. And you're going to be, scrutinized and watched everywhere you go. And we try to educate them on all those things, but they're pretty good. We have a good group of the two young men, like I said earlier, that we lost. We lost more than two, but I highlighted those two. They're pretty good young men. I don't expect them. I expect them to be really solid Major League Baseball players for 10 plus years.
And we'll be back on Everything Old is New Again right here to continue with Roy Silva talking baseball behind the scenes, in front of the bat. We'll be back. Ready this and Everything Old is New Again.
Meet the Mets. You're listening to Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Hi, this is Lee Merriweather. You're listening to Everything Old is New Again with Doug Viviani and David Cohen. They are great guys.
Welcome back to Everything Old is New Again. We are great guys. Thank you, Catwoman herself, Lee Merriweather, reintroducing us here. David Cohen, you remember that interview, huh?
Oh yeah, she was great.
She was a lot of fun.
What a great person to interview. She was just so endearing and had so many great stories. It was so humble. It was terrific.
It sounds like Roy Silva, who's with us right now, continuing talking baseball. Roy, before we get into baseball, I won't play the clip, but we did speak of you previously when we had the drive-in story. We talked about a time when we went to the drive-in, or I went to the drive-in with you and a couple others, and to save a few dollars, you were in the trunk of the vehicle, and we got in, and I don't know if you remember this or not, but the story developed where Dave was pushing me to find out more information, if you remember this, David, and basically we couldn't get you out of the trunk. You clicked something in the lock in the trunk, and we couldn't necessarily get you out right away. Do you remember? And I don't remember telling you that. I think we sort of, Gary and I sort of on the outside were kind of playing games saying, you got to wait, because they'll see you, and we don't want to open up the trunk when people are looking or whatever. But I don't remember the particulars. Do you remember if you, well, first of all, tell that I actually am telling the truth when this story did happen. And then what were your thoughts, if you remember, going on into that trunk?
Well, my thoughts were, let me save $1.20 or whatever it was back then to go to a movie, which was well worth it. Thinking I was only going to be there for a little while, but I remember it being really dark, and then claustrophobia starting to set in, getting nervous about, having enough oxygen to breathe was another fear. I went through a lot of fears that night.
I don't know if you remember, we didn't let on, though, that we couldn't get you out. And I think to this day, this might be the first time you're hearing that we were kind of fumbling and stumbling because the lock was not working too well. Had you known that, the claustrophobia really would have taken effect, huh?
Yeah, I still don't believe that. I think you made that up just to make yourself sound like a nice guy.
The hero. I have to be the hero of every story. You know that.
That would be. I probably would have blocked that years later because it would have been so traumatic for me.
And then just one other thing is I want to qualify these stories, because David's been there and he can see that they're true and all that. But you, me, Gary, Loretta, a number of people were watching TV, and this happened more than once. But I remember one time in my family house, and we were watching Casablanca, I think it was, in different movies, and at some point in time, remember the intercom in the house? At some.
I remember.
What do you remember about that?
Douglas, what are you doing down there? Get up here, Douglas.
That's number one. And number two, Douglas, I think it's time for you. Go ahead, Dave.
Douglas, it's time for your friends to go home.
I'm like, has she been listening the whole time?
Right. I know. Exactly.
Yeah, you guys wanted to know if it was a two-way intercom. Luckily, it wasn't, but her bed, it was my mom, of course. The bedroom was right above the living room, so they could hear us. We were goofing around, having fun. We were good kids.
I don't remember your mom ever being. I remember your dad always being on it because it was just that voice that just like shook you as out of nowhere because you weren't expecting it, right?
the voice of authority,
Douglas.
right?
Yeah, Douglas, time for your friends to go home. And that was it. And we were good guys. We'd just get up and leave. Doug's dad said we had to go.
Honestly, I don't think intercoms were that popular around the neighborhood, so to speak. So I think you all sort of respected it and were afraid of it. Whatever. It represented, like, it was the voice of God, right? For this house. So you just, okay, that's it. Everybody just, I was so freaking embarrassed, but now 50 years later, at least I can talk about it.
It was funny. It was
hilarious.
And listen, I'm sure if I was your dad, I'd be doing the same thing. I'd check it like midnight. It's like, all right, dude, your friends got to go. Come on.
Well, in today's world, they do it by text, right? It would be a little more quiet, I guess.
Yeah.
But that was his way. Anyway, back to it with Royce over here. Roy, you have mentioned, a lot of some players that you've worked with and all. I just wanted to get an idea, and a fella that's popular in New York, and it's I don't want the specifics, but I just want to use him as an example. This Volpe who has good games, bad games, struggling, not struggling, only hitting the low 200s, but got 15 home runs and 45 RBIs. So there's a struggle going on there for him. And I think in the beginning, even, would he stay with the team or not if he wasn't, there was a stretch he wasn't hitting. What goes into the thinking, if you will, of either the team or the management and even down to the particular player when they're so young, 22 in this example, but anyone, it doesn't have to be him, but a young player that's struggling, that has talent, and as we said, was a big fish in a little pond, and now he's playing for the major leagues, and a little bit of a struggle, but do they lose faith? Is there someone like yourself there to inspire them and keep them going? What goes through the process of somebody that's struggling like that but has the talent? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's hard to explain it, and I think it's even harder to understand because they're so good they make it look easy, but then we sit there and go, wow, he's only hit 215, he sucks. Well, he really doesn't suck. As a fan, you're allowed to say whatever you want because you're paying for your ticket, but in the business, he's very good at what he does. I actually met him. He was down in Florida 3 years ago working out with Miguel Cairo, who's a good friend of mine, and Miguel at the time was with the Yankees, and his son Christian Cairo, who plays for the Guardians or the Indians, however you want to refer to them. They were working out together, so I actually got to meet Anthony, and really a fine young man. I think his dad is our age. Matter of fact, I may have even crossed paths with his dad at some point. We were talking, but back to him as an individual, it's imagine your own son at 22 happens to be good enough to be at that level, and people are talking about him. So like I said earlier, if they don't shut off their devices or stop reading newspaper articles, they go to a dark place, and it's hard. They become they can become different. They can be hardened by the whole world. Matter of fact, Isaiah kind of Khalifa, as I called him, came to me as an 18-year-old and a 19-year-old and a 20-year-old down in Florida when the Rangers had first signed him, and I was still working at the winning inning. Well, Isaiah came in. He had some things that we had to work on. So the Rangers at that time, I was like a subcontract. They'd send me a player at a time, and I put him through the same rigamajig that I put Josh Hamilton through. You're going to have to earn your baseball time. And Isaiah is actually the hardest worker that I ever had come through me. And I can talk more about Isaiah, and Jose Trevino as well as another guy that was with us here with the Rangers, who are two amazing players in their own right. And they're not as talented as some of the other people, but they are hard workers or blue collars. Don't get me wrong. They all have talent, but, they got there the right way. I'm proud of them, the way they handle New York of all places where they ended up. But you just have to overcome, or you have to. And that's why it's so important that these young men have other things of interest. So the big thing we work on is take this game and put it in your locker. And when you walk out that door, you might be a husband, you might be a father, and become that guy. Adrian Beltre, who I got to watch his last 3 years with the Rangers, was amazing. The way he compartmentalized his life, it was like he didn't really want to be noticed or talk about baseball when he left the clubhouse. And when he walked out, he was a husband and a father of 3. And it was just a great example for me, who I'm older than him, but also the younger players, to model that, so having that normalcy, having a balance. And some of the younger players, Joey Gallo, who also went through New York there, Joey, we had him since he was 18, watched him go up the system. And it's hard because they do get caught up in, oh, wow, I'm getting pretty famous. Oh, I'm getting a lot of attention. Oh, crap, I'm getting some negative attention. And then it can turn on you. And, like what Dave did, stand-up comedy. And Doug, I know we went and watched your night at the Improv on Long Island. Yeah. That's a scary feeling, to be up in front of people doing something you love to do, and you don't really hit it, or you miss the mark. It's a bad feeling. It's very. I've never done the comedy thing up on stage like that. I'm frightened of that because I did it in baseball. Walking back to the dugout, having swung at 3 sliders in the dirt, knowing that they were in the dirt. It's a hard thing to conquer at times. And then you come back and you hear the one guy above the dugout, "You suck." Right. It's like, you hear him. Right. And then you hear him again when you come out to hit the next time about 20 minutes later, and it's like, oh, that guy won't shut up. And you can't pay attention to it, it makes it worse. So it's not that you don't hear them, but when you're in a good place, and I think when we're all in our good places, none of that distracts you. You're in, it's called the zone. And it's hard to get there. It's even harder to stay there. And especially in baseball, because there's so much failure.
Right. It seems like Roy Silver's great, though, at knocking you back into, or me or anybody, back into their zone, their comfort zone, where they feel confident. And I feel confident to say that Roy will be back with David Cohen, Douglas Viviani, right after this. And Everything Old is New Again. These days, the news is full of teen suicide, drug and alcohol abuse, bullying. It's depressing and concerning, but there is hope. WWE Intercontinental Champion Mark Merrow.
Champion Choice is a live presentation that empowers students to make positive choices and live their best life. I teach students how to live a drug-free life, prevent bullying, avoid peer pressure, and keep negative people out of their lives. We are defined by our choices. There is hope.
To schedule a Champion of Choices presentation for your school or organization, visit thinkpaz.org. That's thinkpaz.org.
Now, back to America's entertainment pop culture talk show. Everything Old is New Again, with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Hi, this is Mario Andretti, and you're listening to Everything Old is New Again.
How about that? Mario Andretti on the show. We're trying to get all the highlights here to show off to our special guest here, Roy Silver. Roy is with the Texas Rangers at present and giving us a good perspective of his job as a special assistant and or rover for the Texas Rangers and in the minor leagues, and he knows quite a bit about baseball behind the scenes, of course, and what's going on the field. You mentioned IKF kind of for like a few minutes ago, and I thought it was very interesting from a fan's perspective to see last year that he was the shortstop for the Yankees and hit, I think, somewhere around 210 or something like that. And then this year they kind of said to him, I don't know, but it seems like they said, listen, you're not playing shortstop. We're going to use you as the utility guy, outfield, infield, wherever. We'll get you your at-bats. But you got to kind of snap out of it and do a little bit better at bat. And it's whatever they did. And I guess the question is, do you have any idea what the motivation, what they used to motivate him? Because I think he's having a great season and he's all over the field and he's He's doing as best you can under the circumstances where he doesn't have a set position, but he's in all the time, and he's one of their best hitters this year. So, am I wrong? What do you think they did there?
We drafted him as a 150-pound shortstop out of Hawaii, right out of high school. So he's slowly put on 30, 35 pounds the right way, the hard way, blue collar. He was an infielder, a backup infielder in the minor leagues for us until he got to Double-A. And then he gets to Double-A. He found his way into a lineup. One of our shortstops got hurt in High A, and he played every day the second half of the season and did really well. So he goes to Double-A, and it has to play third base because we have a prospect at shortstop at the time. So he plays third base there, and he hits 260. He hasn't hit a ball out of the park at that point in his life yet, not even in batting practice. So the story is amazing because he plays 1 year at third base, hits 265. It was a hard 265. He hit more balls on the nose than anybody in the lineup. He just didn't have a lot of power and didn't have a lot to show for it. The next year, we say, you want to try catching? He catches 37 games in Double-A, and he's in the big leagues that year. That's unheard of. To go behind the plate in 37 games at the Double-A level and get to the big leagues as a catcher was unheard of. And at that point, I think he hits a home run for the first time in his life. Now what you have is he caught for us like 2.5 years. All the metrics came out. They started killing him. His confidence fell as a catcher. And he came in one day and said, I'm going to go back to shortstop. And he ended up playing third base for us 2020 year, and he won a Gold Glove. Next, Elvis Andrus was still our shortstop then. Anyway, long story short, it's easy for Isaiah because like I said earlier, he's the hardest worker I ever had. He edged my whole outfield, major league outfield. He edged it in an hour and a half and came back and said, "What's next, Roy?" He's a guy that wants to do more. He's just a perfect example of blue collar. If you want to follow a guy, and again, I hope he hasn't changed, but it doesn't surprise me that he just says, "All right, give me an outfield glove. I'll go play outfield. I'll play wherever I need to play." I'm sure there's been moments sometimes of maybe a little bit of selfishness because it happens to all of us. But I can tell you that his heart and his parents raised him to do exactly what he's doing. Just go play where they tell you to play, keep your mouth quiet, and keep moving forward. He's one of my favorite players.
And he's been, he's stepped into that role that was really needed by the Yankees this year. He's played so many positions just because of all the injuries they've had. So he's really stepped up when they needed him.
He's exactly that's what you see is what you get. That's who he is. He's ready to do what he needs to do.
With respect to doing what you need to do, and let me go one step beyond, he obviously, I shouldn't say obvious because I don't know him, but it seems like he loves the game. He doesn't love just being a shortstop or just hitting, so to speak. He seems to love the game and the process. And I don't know how many of these players lose that love versus the ones that are continuing to love it as they're struggling through the majors.
I question whether they ever loved it. We all love something, or we think we love it because we think love is a feeling. When I'm 3 for 4, oh, I love baseball. When I get a big contract, I love baseball. What about when you're 0 for 4, you're 1 for 27, and the people are booing you? Do you quit loving it? Do you hate it? Love is a commitment. Love is not a feeling. And that's a big message of mine to the players. It's a big message to myself. Love is all encompassing. It's a huge word. And unfortunately, sometimes with our spouses, and it goes both ways. I mean, are you going to love this every day, this face that I'm showing you? Probably not. Definitely not. You have to overcome your feelings and love something. I don't always love to go and clean my toilet, but I have to find a way to get it done. And I like the way it looks after I'm finished. So you have to think yourself into understanding what love means. So love is not a feeling, it is a commitment. So I question if that player ever did love it. And there's a lot of players that are in professional baseball that don't love it. They like it, and they like the money that comes with it, but they don't love it. Isaiah loves baseball, and he shows it because he shows up every day and he gives you the same thing every day.
So you're saying it's an interesting way to put it. So you're basically saying that love is measured by the commitment that you have to something, right? Whether it's a relationship, whether it's a sport or whatever.
Well, the definition, again, real quick, the Bible says God is love. So what is love? It's life, it's death, it's health, it's sickness, it's rich, it's poor, it's all of it. So if we're poor, does that mean my life's over? No, there's plenty of people in this country. Matter of fact, the world has more poverty than it has wealth. And so are those people, do they hate life? No, sometimes you go to those countries, I've been to Africa, they don't know any better. They love what they have. And it's very refreshing to get around those people because we're so spoiled. Sometimes we're just annoying, and we're probably annoying to other people because, oh God, my air conditioning's broke. Life sucks. I don't have cable TV. I remember when cable went out, and back when we all had cable. Oh, I can't watch ESPN. Like, really? That's your biggest problem in life. So, again, look, perspective is where love comes from, and you have to put everything into perspective, and you have to commit to love. It is a decision. It's not a feeling. So those are things that I try to teach to players as well. I try to teach that to myself and to my wife and to my daughters.
And along those lines, with respect to baseball, if you're 0 for 25 and don't love the game, you're probably going to be much more difficult at bat number 26. If you love the game, at bat number 26 is, I still got hope, man. I'm going to get 3 in a row, and before you know it, I'll be back on the a run here, because you love the process of batting or a fielding or whatever it might be, right? It's got to. That's the way I would look at it. Is if you love it, everything you said I agree with, but one step beyond is you love it. That love will give you the strength, let's say, to face that adversity, whether it's an at bat or whether it's going to court or whether it's having to punch the clock for the 40th hour of the week. It helps you to give you that motivation and the power, to do what you can do because you love it.
100%. And I'll go back to during the pandemic when I worked with the roofing company. In the middle of July, it's 95 degrees with a 100% humidity rate in Florida. And I'm watching these guys show up every day, bringing it at 6:30, going up and down the roof with, and these men, some of them are 150 pounds, 140 pounds. And even some of the women would join the force and carrying tiles and off the roof, cleaning off all the nails of the old roof, and then coming back and putting on a new one within a day and a half, and coming back the next day and doing it again. And I'm sitting there going, man, I can never, ever complain about being on a baseball field ever again. Not that I don't think I ever do, but I don't even want to listen to other people do it because I told our guys the other day, like, it's hot everywhere. So I'm hearing guys come in, man, it's hot. Thanks for the reminder. I mean, we're in Arizona. It's July.
It's summer.
What did you expect? Yeah, it's like, is it surprising? But what happens is you verbalize it, and you verbalize it into existence, and then it becomes an excuse. Like, oh, this is why I'm 0 for 4, because it's hot. No, the other team, the kid on the other team went 4 for 4. The pitcher on the other team is throwing off the same mound. Why are you complaining about the mound? It's like, stop. Do you love this or not? Because you can go do something else for a living. If you can't come out and play baseball in 100-degree weather, that's fine. Go do something else for a living. It's a free country. Stop complaining, because the complaining also spreads to your teammates.
Contagious.
Right.
Again, going back to a guy, I'm just going to use Isaiah because I know Isaiah and I can speak for him. Just show up every day and be the same guy. That makes you a good teammate.
Exactly.
And that makes you a leader. Because we can all be leaders. We don't all have to get up on a soapbox and get in front of and deliver an inspiring speech. You can still be a leader by being quiet and just coming and doing it every day.
Exactly.
Right.
We'll be back right here on Everything Old is New Again. Sorry to cut you short. We're just running out of time with Roy Silver. He is giving us a good insight as to life as well as what it's like to be in the majors. We'll be back right at this and Everything Old is New Again.
So down on the corner, the national pastime went on trial. We're talking baseball. Klazuski.
This is Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Yes, back here on Everything Old is New Again with Roy Silver, David Cohen, Douglas Viviani. David, you have a question for Roy?
Yeah, you talked before, Roy, about how the mobile, the cell phones, the smartphones are distracting to younger players and could be like all encompassing. So, obviously the three of us, we didn't grow up with that technology, and I don't know how to help someone get away from that, because like you, I'm not involved in social media. I don't know what that's like. I know about obsessing over things and being, driven by what I hear people might say about me, and how that can really, mess with your mind. So how do you, maybe if you can, just talk for a few minutes about how you help a player who might just be completely distracted by the phone?
Unfortunately, it's like anything else in life, right? We all have vices, or we've had vices. People have vices, and you see them. Let's just go to an extreme example of an alcoholic. When is he going to stop drinking? You can talk to him. His spouse can talk to him or her. Their children can talk to them. Dad, you've lost your job. Dad, mommy said she's going to leave you if you don't stop. Dad, and they don't stop, or they'll stop in front of you, and they get behind the scenes and they're back at it again. So it's the same thing with a cell phone. It could be, there's great things on the cell phone. I don't want to paint this picture like it's all negative, but it's like anything else, in moderation. And until you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, to answer your question, I've got to let this guy, you give him enough rope, he's going to hang himself, type of a thing. And you can talk till you're blue in the face. That's why I said earlier, I'm alongside these players. I have to teach them to be their best coach on the field. They also have to be their best coach off the field, because we're not going to live their lives for them. We don't swing the bat for them. We don't throw the ball for them. So unfortunately, the answer to that is patience, staying consistent with your message, staying simple. And at the end of the day, it's your life, it's your career. How do you want this to turn out? And again, I never quit on people, because I know the man upstairs never quit on me. And so my job is to continue. Now, I may call Dave, or I may call you, Doug. Hey, I'm going to let you talk to so-and-so, just to use an example of another coach, or a good doctor will say, go get a second opinion. Like, there's a bunch of us that can lock arms around this person, and be there for them. Again, I just told you, 3 of my buddies recently in the last year and a half chose to continue in their negative habit, which it cost all 3 of them their lives. And it's heartbreaking. It's gut-wrenching. Yeah. But again, I did all I could for them. Other people did as much as they could for them. Josh Hamilton, there was a period where I was able to do things for him, with him. And then, it's a period in life, and he responded very well. But
you kind of have to want to change, right? You have to want to change.
You got to want it.
Yeah. Now, you speak about baseball with, you've got 5 tools, but you speak about sometimes, and I've seen you say this, that there's a 6th tool that exists, the relationship between your brain and your heart. And we have a Star Trek reference all the time. It's like Dr. McCoy versus Mr. Spock. I mean, it is relevant, and that's why I always find that show interesting, because I think some of life is a struggle between what do I love doing, or what is my heart telling me to do, versus what is my brain telling me is the right thing to do, or getting those two into harmony with each other. So maybe explain that a little bit. What you mean when you say that's a 6th tool.
The 6th tool is your spirit, your soul. Is it at peace or not? We're mind, body, and soul. So I like talking about that. And we're mind, we're soul, then body, because it's a 3-link chain. And when that chain, those 3 links are connected, you're in a good place. That's the zone. Your mind is simple. It's thinking simple. You're at peace in your soul, your spirit, and your body is going to perform at its maximum potential. The problem is the brain starts to think negatively, or something negative happens, or here I go again, or I'm hurt, or it's too hot. All these thoughts, now you're not at peace, and your mind starts to think negative. Then your heart rate starts to be affected, and then you'll have a physical, like if you get bad news, you can literally get sick to your stomach, because your mind goes, oh my God, mom has cancer. Oh my God, she might die. Now your heart starts to race. You get nervous. You could even, all of a sudden, you might even get sweaty. You get nauseous. You lose your appetite. Sometimes you get stomach issues. You throw up. But that's how strong the mind is. So keeping the mind simple, at rest, knowing your fears are there, knowing your strengths, managing those weaknesses, keeps your heart rate stable. That's what they talk about, speeding up the game or slowing down the game. The game speeds up when our brain speeds up. And if you don't have the ability to stop and slow it down, and usually that's why in baseball we bring experience. Like we go out and get Scherzer at 38 or 39 years old because he's been through it. He doesn't panic. His first inning, second inning with us was kind of rocky. But then in the third inning, he settles in. He's trying to impress new people. He's coming into a new place. He's got new teammates, all these things that come into it. But he's been there before. And we had younger guys come up that probably have as good a stuff as Scherzer, but they weren't ready mentally and emotionally. So the sixth tool is the most important tool because a lot of first-round picks have the physical ability to play in the major leagues, but they don't get there. Sometimes it could be an injury, but a lot of times it's just their mind and their souls don't coexist. So their bodies can't play to their maximum potential. So when you go to like Leo, whatever his potential is, as long as he's having fun, he's watching the ball, he's going to love baseball. Then if he doesn't, if you don't accept him for who he is and how he plays at whatever level he is physically, then he's going to hate baseball because dad doesn't like the way he plays baseball. And I think we've all kind of had those experiences growing up. Dad's happy when I do good and he's not happy when I don't do good.
Well, that's a good point because I see that coaching, and I had to fight this last year with this particular league. It seems like the league, and it comes down sometimes from the league down, had the attitude with, they saw Massapequa, I think it was, went to the Little League World Series last year, and they're like, we want that. We want that for our league. And I was drafting kids, and I was like, wow, I'm in over my head because I don't know even how to, the first thing even to sign up to get a team into the Little League World Series or whatever. But my point being is, it's the parents that I saw on some of the teams and some parents for my players put so much pressure on their kids. And so I had to literally take the kids after every game out to second base, so I'm outside of the purview of the parents listening, and talk to the kids about what were the positive things in that game, and if there were negatives, which there certainly always are, how we can improve upon them, and what was the positive thing that so-and-so, the ball went through his legs, but you as teammates picked him up when he came into the dugout, whatever, different thing. It's weird to say, but I had to enforce the positivity, and beyond that, to get to one word, fun. If you guys are not having fun, don't come back. I want you to have fun. Throw whatever is going on behind that net, that screen, whatever, where the fans are. Throw it away. You're in this dugout to have fun, man. Throw it all. If you're not having fun, there's a problem here. I don't care if you go 0 for 10. You can catch that ball in center field and win the game for us if you have a positive attitude. If not, you're going to miss that ball, and you're going to go home miserable, and you're not going to want to come back. Anyway, I thought it was interesting that you said that, but on the other side of the fence, seeing it on the ground roots, this level of Little League, to see that sometimes these kids, they don't go out to the field on a Saturday afternoon and play with their buddies and just have fun. The only time they're playing a baseball game is in Little League, with all the parents and the coaches and all that stuff and the uniforms. It's kind of sad because we grew up, we would just go on a Saturday and we'd play. And I think that is something that was lost. So anyway, I had to, we have to kind of, on the coaching side or the parent side, is say fun is the most important thing about playing that game at this level, I think.
It's number one. I couldn't say it any better. That, if you're doing exactly, okay. What's that?
I think you could have said it better, but I agree. Go ahead.
Could have used less words.
No, but if you're doing exactly what you said right there, you're a great Little League coach. You're not. Yes. You're not even good. You're great. And if you did coaching clinics and that's all you talked about for 10 minutes, that's a great clinic because it doesn't matter. So again, you go back to less than 1% of the population ends up where you guys watch on TV in the Bronx. It's less than 1% of our population. Even we draft 100 guys, only 15 of them will touch the big leagues for a very short period of time. And 3 of those 15, if it was a good draft or whatever, might stay there long enough to call it a career.
That's incredible. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The numbers are staggering against your. I ran my business. We're preparing 99.9% of the population for the real life. That was not a popular slogan for a baseball academy.
Yeah, but like I said, it was the truth, and unfortunately, the truth is we're out of time here with Roy Silver. We're going to have to have you come back. But the point is, between the ears is so important to all of this, and it relates to baseball and beyond. So we want to thank you for taking the time to revisit with us as personally, but of course to all our listeners in that I think these 2 shows have opened the door to to some understanding of the human condition, if you will, at least from our perspective. So thank you so much, Roy.
Thank you guys for having me, and keep doing what you're doing. I love it.
That's great. Hang on one second, Roy. We'll be right back. But we'll be back next week to talk all good things, entertainment, pop culture entertainment. David Cohen, good to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you, Roy. It's been just great. It's been a real honor to have you on. Thanks.
We'll connect next time I'm in New York.
We'll be back right after this. Everything else again.